There are significantly more than 13,000 cards in the game, and most of these cards have effects that do things. Those that don't are often, but not always, normal monsters. The typical trend with normal monsters is that the ones with higher stats tend to get more attention, like Gemini Elf and Mekk-Knight Avram. Even Gazelle, the king of mythical beasts, can still get some beatstick recognition in the early days of the progression series. But then there are normal monsters that lack decent stats, even on top of their missing effects, and still manage to be noteworthy. So let's dive in. Or that's what I would say, but we're actually just taking a break at the number 10 spot. So don't get off the couch yet. Just chillax with Potato and Chips, a level 2 earth plant with 200 attack and defense. They haven't quite gotten around to a TCG release, but they've been taking things easy in Japan since November of 2018, when they were printed as part of the special Yu-Gi-Oh! Chips campaign, findable in select bags of Colby's lightly salted potato chips. Predictably, neither Potato nor Chips have seen any kind of competitive relevance in the OCG, but they do have some support in the form of Soul and Seal and Farm Delivery, a trap. While these cards support normal monsters in general rather than Potato and Chips specifically, the artwork for both depicts the two spuds hanging out. Like Potato and Chips, Soul Unseal and Farm Delivery could only be pulled from the special Calibri promotional snack packs. As you can imagine, all these cards are hard to find and costly to produce today. And while you might not slot Potato and Chips in your deck, if you happen to have one in parallel rare, you can make a great field center. But although Potato and Chips are cute and nifty, there's not much more to say about them other than, interesting. So we'll take number 10. But they're okay with that, and the couch potatoes can sit back and watch the rest of the list with you. Number 9 goes to the people that gather to swear to fight their oppressors. A revolution is coming. United Resistance is a level 3 wind attribute thunder monster with 1000 attack and 400 defense from 2003's Magician's Force set. While normal monsters don't have effects, many enjoy a sort of pseudo effect, where other cards work because of a prerequisite fulfilled by those specific normal monsters. You can activate Dark Magic Attack, for example, while you control the Dark Magician. Other examples include Harpy Lady and Elegant Egotist, or Seal Master Macy's Talismans of Spells and Trap Sealing. While United Resistance shares the field with oppressive people and people running about, they can bring about their promised uprising. When the trap Huge Revolution is activated, your opponent first sends every card in their hand to the graveyard, and then everything on their field is destroyed. This powerful effect can only happen while the 3 revolutionary normal monsters are on the field. But despite this card printed over 2 decades ago, this is still an explosively powerful effect. The 3 cards that enable it are kind of cool too. Oppressed People is level 1 with more defense and attack. People Running About is a level 2 with equal attack and defense, and United Resistance is a level 3 with more attack than defense. Arranged in a timeline, these cards tell the story of a population under tyrannical reign, at first on the defense and scared. As we come to People Running About, things are in flux. Organization has begun. The balance between attack and defense symbolizes the potential for change. Things don't have to be the way they were before. And then we reach United Resistance. The communities have rallied. They provide for each other, and the tyrant cannot stop them, indicated by the gradual transition of these cards from defending to attacking. There's even a Rush Duel insect retrain of this card, United Resist Ants. Risebell the Summoner is a level 3 wind psychic monster with 800 attack and defense, and is also this list's number 8 pick. The first normal psychic monster, Risebell does technically have an effect. A pendulum effect. It's a scale 2 from 2015's Clash of Rebellion set. As far as pendulum scales go, 2 is pretty decent. Since you can pendulum summon monsters of any level between the 2 scales you set, you'll get the most value to the ones that are low or high rather than around the middle. What this means is you'll probably scale in your Risebell the Summoner rather than summoning it, and that's without taking into consideration Risebell's pendulum effect to target a monster in the field and raise its level by 1. You can do this once per turn and use it to facilitate your own plays or hinder your opponents. If they're running Synchro or XC strategies, they probably won't appreciate having their levels toyed with. Risebell's flavor text identifies him as a good elder brother to Sister Sambell, who reads to her often from a magic book. This harmonious scene is depicted in the Summoner's card art. But who's that lurking in the background? It's Hypno-Sister and a Transfamiliar. The Summoner's corruption into Risebell the Star Adjuster begins with Wavering Eyes, a spell that depicts Hypno-Sister's ambush of Risebell, and continues with his awakened form, Risebell the Star Psyker. But despite being caught in this unending nightmare, Risebell's ties to Sambell are able to pull him out of the darkness, as seen in the counter trap Unwavering Bond. But Sambell the Summoner isn't totally left behind in all of these escapades, and it gets an upgraded form too. Risebell the Star Adjuster. Soaring into number 7 is Elemental Hero Avian. He's lean, mean, and green and comes from 2005's The Lost Millennium set. With 1,000 attack and defense, this level 3 Wind Warrior is most notable for being part of the original run of Elemental Hero monsters, a line of multi-attribute warriors that broke big within Yu-Gi-Oh! GX and have since become one of the game's most iconic and recognizable archetypes. Elemental Hero Avian was an early game example of Konami's efforts to make extra deck summoning a more reliable thing. Back when the extra deck was called the Fusion deck, actually performing a fusion summon was often worth neither the resources nor the time it would take to accumulate 2 or more specific named monsters, plus polymerization. The Elemental Hero's answers to this clunky mechanic was to simply have a lot of potential fusions. Avian released alongside Elemental Heroes Burstinatrix, Sparkman, and Clayman, and The Lost Millennium also brought Elemental Hero Flame Wingman and Elemental Hero Thunder Giant. Future sets would further expand the roster of hero fusions, as well as adding other main deck heroes, creating a line of cards that could interchangeably fuse with each other in different configurations for different results. While Avian and Sparkman don't have a base fusion on their own, by adding in Bubbleman, you could summon Elemental Hero Tempest. Take Sparkman out of the picture and you get Elemental Hero Mariner. Elemental Hero Phoenix Enforcer give an alternative to Flame Wingman for the same materials, and with Elemental Hero Wildheart came Elemental Hero Wild Wingman. Then there are the Evil Heroes, another hero sub-archetype of Dark Fiends, some of who, like Evil Hero Infernal Wing and Evil Hero Wild Cyclone, fuse from existing Elemental Heroes. There's even Elemental Hero Flame Wingman Infernal Rage, and Evil Hero Infernal Wing Infernal Backlash, modern retrains of Avian fusions, although only the Infernal Wing retains Avian as a specific material. Elemental Hero Avian actually has a few competitive placements as befitting its iconic status, but where Avian really shines is artwork features, showing up in quite a few cards, including Dark Fusion, Feather Shot, Fifth Hope, Hero Mask, Hero's Bond, Mirage Tube, Generation Next, and a bunch of cards from the GX anime that haven't made it to print yet. And speaking of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, Elemental Hero Avian was one of the main guys of series protagonist Jaden Yuki. Avian appeared a lot over the course of all 4 seasons, and his fusions with Elemental Hero Burstinatrix and Elemental Hero Flame Wingman have always been one of Jaden's ace plays. This was the monster that led him to victory in the first duel of the series over Dr. Valen Crowler's Ancient Gear Golem, and it would feature again in the show's closing duel, with Flame Wingman going toe-to-toe with Yugi Moto's Dark Magician. This would represent that after the ups and downs, and even more downs Jaden went through, he retains the spark that sent him on the path of dueling so many episodes ago. Can you hear an eerie voice on the wind? Hallohallo, brain of tallow. Guts are gone, noggins hollow. Seeking sweets and marshy mallows, watch your back and your candy sack. The poem is the descriptive text for the cards number 6 on this list, the festive, dark 3-star fiend pendulum, Hallohallo. Fitting for a Halloween spirit, Hallohallo released in the month of October as part of the Circuit Break set in the year of 2017. It has 800 attack and 600 defense, and is the first tuner pendulum to print without inherent restrictions on its use. It's also the first normal pendulum that's a tuner, and the first tuner pendulum to print outside of an established archetype. It's a fun little card, and while its pendulum effect isn't super good, it can target a monster and roll a die, and then modulate the target's level to the result. It's not detrimental either, and we still get to have the fun flavor inscription. Hallohallo has a pendulum scale of 2, which is pretty good for a pendulum low scale, and being a generic level 3 tuner isn't a bad choice either, since there are plenty of strong level 6 and 7 synchros to go into. It would take Konami another 2 years to print a second pendulum tuner normal, with 2019's Rising Rampage giving us Magic Calibra. This card is a level 4 tuner, which is fantastic, but it has a pendulum scale of 5. While not totally useless on the high or low end, scaling 5 does kind of limit what pendulum plays Magic Calibra can pull off. Hallohallo, on the other hand, has a more flexible scale, a poem, and what's first. Its guts might be gone, and its head might be hollow, but if you don't watch your back, Hallohallo will tune into a Cyber's Quantum Dragon and turn you into next Halloween's newest ghost. In a list of normal monsters with 1,000 or less bull stats, you expect to see a lot of levels 2s and 3s, and that's what sets this spot apart from the rest. Hieratic Seal of the Sun Dragon Overlord is a level 8 dragon monster from 2012's Galactic Overlord set, with no attack, no defense, and no effect, but a solid number 5 placement on this list. Alright, so what's its deal, and why has it actually seen a smidge of competitive play? Well, it's part of the Hieratic archetype, which brings a lot of monsters with effects that let you summon a normal from hand, deck, or graveyard, but with zeroed stats. Hieratic Seal the Sun Dragon Overlord obviously doesn't care about the stat reduction. But what's the use case of running it over something like the Blue Eyes White Dragon? In your dedicated Hieratic deck, you'd probably be running more seals than just the Sun Dragon Overlord. And interestingly, most of the rest of the Hieratic Seals are spells and traps. But then this does make sort of sense. Hieratic Seal of the Sun Dragon Overlord does occupy a similar role to back row seals, because its job is to support the rest of the Hieratic cast. Hieratic Seal of Banishment lets you tribute a Hieratic monster to banish an opponent's and then sacrifice Hieratic Seal of the Sun Dragon Overlord, which can then be easily recouped by your Hieratic effects. Easy access to this high-level normal monster lets Hieratic players use some support cards that are otherwise somewhat difficult to work into a cohesive deck, like Advanced Draw and White Elephant's Gift. There are also a few other interesting cards related to Hieratic Seal of the Sun Dragon Overlord to talk about. Hieratic Seal of the Dragon King is a level 6 Gemini with no stats, with the ability, on a second summon, to tribute itself to bring out another Hieratic from hand, deck, or graveyard. Hieratic Sun Dragon Overlord of Heliopolis is the rank 8 Xyz evolution of its seal, and can be summoned by overlaying 2 or more generic level 8 materials, where at least one is probably intended to be Hieratic Seal the Sun Dragon Overlord. In a similar way, Hieratic Seal the Dragon King is probably an intended material for Hieratic Dragon King of Autumn, a rank 6 Xyz Hieratic monster. And then there's Hieratic Seal the Heavenly Spheres. This Link 2 has the Seal of the Sun Dragon Overlord front and center, and requires 2 dragons as materials, which makes it an easy summon for Hieratic decks and other decks with lots of dragons. Like the previous Seal's monsters, Heavenly Spheres has 0 attack, but when it occupies the extra monster zone, it has the quick effect to tribute a monster from your hand or field to bounce a card from field to hand. This is fantastic interruption, and when you tribute Hieratic Seal the Heavenly Spheres as cost for its own effect, you're taking a shortcut to its other effect to summon a dragon from hand or deck after Heavenly Spheres is tributed. The new dragon will have its attack and defense set to 0, but a body is a body, and this can be a quick method for harvesting a specific name. From one shiny ball to another, goodbye Hieratic Seal the Sun Dragon Overlord, and hello spot number 4 with Mystic Shine Ball. This level 2 light fairy with 500 attack and defense has been around since 2004. When released as part of the Ancient Sanctuary set. While it might appear initially unassuming, Mystical Shine Ball has seen a staggering amount of competitive play, with a spike of over 30 placements in 2011 and another 7 years later in 2018. Mystic Shine Ball's utility is directly tied to another card from Ancient Sanctuary, the Agent of Creation, Venus. A level 3 light fairy with no restrictions on summon, Venus is able to pay 500 light points to summon a copy of Mystic Shine Ball from your hand or deck. And since Venus's effect is not limited to once per turn, you can activate as many times as you have the Shine Balls and light points to afford. In 2004, you could fill your board with bodies for defending or tributing, and in Chaos decks, make use of their convenient light attribute. But this effect would only get more tactical as the game advanced, and the number of ways you can arrange your monsters for extra deck summons expanded. A few future agent cards would get the tuner treatment, like the Agent of Entropy Uranus, and a few years later, the Executor of the Underworld Pluto, but most importantly, the Agent of Destruction Venus. The new Venus could trade life points for Shine Balls like the old one, but unlike the original, Destruction Venus has her effect limited to once per turn. Still, she's able to pay multiples of 500 in one activation, summoning Mystic Shine Balls from graveyard or banishment for every 500 paid. More ways of accessing and recurring your Shine Balls was especially good, since the effects of Agent Boss monsters Master Hyperion, Majesty Hyperion, and Master Flare Hyperion were all powered by banishing fairies as cost. Mystical Shine Ball was a great way to give them the juice they needed to blast your opponent with the light of the sun. But the Agents and Hyperions weren't the only competitive deck to load up a Mystic Shine Ball. World to Chalice strategies in particular enjoyed having extra normal monsters at their disposal besides their core Chalice trio. If deck building limitations didn't constrain the amount of legal Shine Balls at 3, people would probably run more. But those who pay attention to the card might know that people actually already do. There's an additional Mystical Shine Ball in the Agent of Mystery Earth's art at the top of her staff. And in Duel Links, Mystical Shine Ball was great too. Similar to its run in the TCG, both Mystic Shine Ball and the Agent of Creation Venus were introduced relatively early in the format's timeline as part of Duel Links' second mini-box, Flame of the Tyrant, where they were okay. Janky, but decent at what they did. In time, this would change. Intensely. Many years later, archive skills usable by every playable character were introduced to Duel Links, and we got Tuning in the Sky, a skill that could shuffle back Shine Ball garnets for searches and tunerify your fairies. Alongside the release of other major agent cards like the Agent of Life Neptune and the Agent of Destruction Venus, tuning in the sky was super cracked and would lead to big nerfs, some of which could include Master Hyperion to 1, Divine Punishment to 1, Cards in the Sky to 3, and Lighted Judgment to 1. And coming from way back at the start of Yu-Gi-Oh!, it's right arm, left leg, left arm, and right leg of the Forbidden One at number 3. They're all dark spellcasters with 200 attack and 300 defense, and entered the TCG in its first set, 2002's The Legend of the Blue Eyes White Dragon. Together with their head, which is an effect monster, and therefore barred from this list, the pieces of the Forbidden One assemble into one of the game's earliest and most famous alternate win conditions. Though seemingly weak, the player that manages to collect all 5 pieces of Exodia in their hand are able to call on a monster so powerful they instantly win the game. Working towards this goal, Exodia decks often look past the battle phase and mere life points for ending games, instead pulling all of the resources into searching and draw power. All the Forbidden One pieces are perma-locked at 1 copy per deck, but if you can set up loops that lets you draw infinitely, you will eventually draw them all. This was the mindset behind quite a few famous FTKs, like using Magical Library to extend the reach of your draw spells to cover potentially your whole deck. Dark Factory Mass Production has helped Exodia strategies use cards like White Elephant's Gifts and Ties of the Brethren by enabling the recursion of lost forbidden limbs from the graveyard. From Fortune Ladies to Heart of the Underdog Deep Draw to Bistro Butcher Appropriate, as many ways as there are to draw cards, some duelist is going to try their luck at Exodia. And in the first episode of the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters anime, Yugi Moto did. Sure of his victory, Seto Kaiba could be seen gloating over the power of his blue eyes and frailty of the deck built by Yugi's grandpa. What Kaiba didn't understand was that Grandpa Moto's deck had no useless cards, and that, like the Millennium Puzzle itself, great power could be unlocked by those willing to piece things together. The Forbidden One would receive many retrains and alternate forms over the years. Exodia Necros, which can only be special summoned through the activation of Contract with Exodia, while the 5 pieces of the Forbidden One rest in your grave, was pretty bad. But the legendary Exodia Incarnate had a fun twist on the original Exodia win condition. Powered by Forbidden One pieces in the grave, it would automatically recur them to the hand over time and balance its waning strength by inching closer to an authentic Exodia win. There was Exodia the Legendary Defender, the aesthetically similar Exod Master of the Guard, and even True Exodia, currently exclusive to the OCG. 2024's The Infinite Forbidden would introduce the Millennium archetype and the Unstoppable Exodia Incarnate, a fusion of the 5 pieces of the Forbidden One summonable with Millennium Ankh, and able to set Exod and obliterate back row during the end phase. Though sealed away, aspects of Exodia are always cropping up. But they all come back to the arms and legs locked away long ago, the limbs of the Forbidden One. The number 2 spot on this list goes to a monster that isn't strong, but can mean trouble in large numbers. And large numbers are what Skull Servant decks are all about. Despite being a level 1 dark zombie with only 300 attack and 200 defense, from 2002's The Legend of the Blue Eyes White Dragon, Skull Servant is also the core of a strategy capable of putting out beaters with 10,000 plus attack points. While Skull Servant probably wouldn't be dealing that much damage by itself without considerable equip support, it's the pioneer of the White archetype, a group of skeletal zombies with this shared effect to have their names treated as Skull Servant while in the graveyard. 2005's The Lost Millennium set introduced King of the Skull Servants, a new level 1 zombie that would become the archetype's main attacker, where its question mark attack resolves to 1,000 times the number of Skull Servants in the grave, including copies of King of Skull Servants. At release, this gave you a ceiling of 5,000 from the 3 Skull Servants and the other 2 Kings. On top of this, King of the Skull Servants could float back into itself when destroyed by banishing another Skull Servant from the graveyard. Sure, it would come back 1,000 points weaker, but this gave it protection against common forms of removal. And we're not done yet. Actually, the Eternal Party of the Undead never stops, because after King of Skull Servants, we got the White line, with a new card releasing every few years. First, we got the Lady in White, and then White Mare, following by White Prince, and then White Princess. In 2021, we got White Baking, and 2024 spawned White Lord. In Grave, all of these cards become Skull Servant, and that's on top of their other effects. All of these new servants boost the ceiling for Giga Skull Servant's base attack all the way to a staggering 23,000. So, the flavor text of the original Skull Servant doesn't lie. In large numbers, these skeletal spirits are OTK dangerous, which is also pretty neat, because it really does evoke the spirit of their zombie typing. Neither strong on their own or particularly fast, when a horde accumulates, it will tear down everything in its path. Skull Servant's status as a famously bad icon didn't just get it a whole bunch of legacy support, but also a huge quantity of artwork appearances in other cards. Ghost Salvage, Graceful Revival, Panic Burial, Monster Rebone, Terrible Deal, Spirit Caller, Tri-White, Quarantine, Reject Reborn, There Can Be Only One, Spirit Shackles, Anti, Dark Eruption, Zombie Master, Self-Mummification, and Pride of the Week all depict a Skull Servant or their king. Whether it be the cards that share its name, cameos in other cards, anime appearances, or even competitive placements, Skull Servant has way more than what you would expect by looking at it and easily takes the number 2 spot. And blooming into number 1 is Sunseed Genus Loci, a level 1 earth plant with no attack and 600 defense. Sunseed Genus Loci is a more recent addition than most of the rest of this list, releasing as an ultra rare in 2021 set Ghost from the Past. Plant Link strategies are infamous for the flexibility and complexity of their combos, with Loci as a big part of that. This little seed is so good, it can be worth running Unexpected Die at 3 just to get it out. With Genius Loci on the board, you can link off into Sun Avalon Dryas, a link 1 that searches a Sunvine spell or trap when summoned using Sunseed Genius Loci. You'll often want to grab a Sunvine Sowing, which can special summon a Sunseed monster from deck while inflicting 100 self-damage. With a plant link on field and a low-level plant normal in grave, using Sowing to summon Sunseed Twin will then let Twin revive Genius Loci, and then you're getting another plant too. When Sunvine Sowing inflicts damage, you're able to regain your lost life points with the effect of Sun Avalon Dryas while special summoning a Sunvine monster from your extra deck, like Sunvine Healer or Sunvine Thrasher. With just one Sunseed Genus Loci, you've grown a full board of plants, and Sun Avalon Dryas isn't even the Great Tree's final form. There's Sun Avalon Dryads, Sun Avalon Drynome, and finally Sun Avalon Dryentrentii, although the bigger trees aren't used as often as Dryads and the vines. But part of the strength of Genus Loci is how well it plays with other plants. Rikas, Aromages, and even Ragnarikas grow well alongside the Sunseed in a big plant pile garden. In the Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains anime, Sunseed Genius Loci and its many outgrowths are used by Spectre, the manipulative and mercurial second in command of the Knights of the Hanoi. He's as careful and methodical as his chosen deck, so don't let his decorum or the amiable facade of his garden catch you unaware, because these plants will eat you alive. While many normal monsters with low stats are famous like the Exodia limbs or situationally useful, or good for powering other cards, Genius Loci is one of the very few normal monsters that, normal summoned, will make your opponent sweat. It's a small seed, but it blooms big, and flourishes here at number 1. Alright, and that's the list. But there are plenty more low-statted normals worth mentioning. So, if I missed your favorite, or if you have more ideas for future videos just like this one, I'd love to hear from you down in the comments.